Hi, and welcome to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, joined, of course, by my fantastic co-host, Judy Loge.
Hello, Veronique.
It's Monday.
I know, it's Monday.
How did we get here?
It's okay. This is the way we get awake on Monday and greet all of our viewers. Welcome to our show, everybody.
I know, it's so exciting to be back together on Mondays, and here we are. And you know what? As we always do, and I love this part because it makes us think, but you're going to kick us off with your quote of the day.
Yes, and really, there doesn't entail too much thinking in this one, but just we like to chat about these quotes. You don't have to explain why you want what you want, do what you do, or love what you love. You are allowed to live a life that some people don't understand.
I love that.
What's your takeaway from that?
I love it. Well, you know what? I think sometimes we stop ourselves from doing things because we think, oh, somebody's going to think that's stupid that I really like comic books or that I really like reading historical romance novels, which is what my thing. It is my thing. I love them. They are not intellectually stimulating in any way.
Light.
But they take me away from the real world, and I get to lose myself in all of that.
And the heaviness of it. Like sometimes books are so much more than you need to know with all of the news that's, like I said, so depressing that, light stuff's nice sometimes.
Yeah. So I like the fact that, don't let yourself kind of get stopped by that stuff.
And don't let people judge. Like I'm so tired of the judging. If someone we saw a guy last week with this huge mohawk like I've never seen in my entire life. I mean, Veronique, I don't know how the guy did it or how the hairstylist did it, but it was seriously, I'm going to say, a foot high, literally.
Really?
And I thought, that's cool. He owns that. And who are we to judge that? It looks really bizarre. It was like purple, pink, and everything. Who cares? It's his life, his head.
Absolutely.
And I find people just should be fine with whatever anyone else is doing and leave them be.
Yeah, it's you got to embrace some of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we had the long weekend not that long ago, and you were actually away for the first time.
For the first time in over 2 years.
Wow.
And like you, I'm a travel bug, and Gerard loves to travel, and I'm stimulated by travel, and it had been such a very unusual experience to be not able to get on a plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little trips by car here and there, not too far, but I wasn't very apprehensive. I thought, you have to wear your mask on the plane.
Sure.
I had my vaccination proof of passport and everything, or proof, with me, and so it felt amazing to be away and just see new people.
Yeah.
Dine in crowds, go shopping. Not that I really like to.
Sure. If anybody has ever watched the show, you know that that's not true.
They had to drag me.
I'm sure.
Yeah, they
I'm
had to
sure.
drag me and chain me to the stores. And just to walk and see people, and there were musicians on the sidewalk, and it was fabulous, and it feels so good. And you're going to have the same experience?
Yeah, I've got a trip coming up too. It's a work-related trip, but listen, I just can't wait. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be honest. Part of it I'm looking forward to is that disconnection a little bit from the day-to-day from work, and a little bit of a mental health break. Even though it's not a vacation, it's an opportunity to be in different surroundings and enjoy some new stuff
and new people
and
have
new
conversations.
Yeah.
We were just in Montreal. It was myself, my husband, our son that lives in Halifax, and his girlfriend flew. We flew from Moncton, they flew from Halifax, and Jansen was free to come with us, so it was like a family trip. Just us, little family, and we had a beautiful time just laughing, talking, and being together.
Oh, I love that.
It's healthy.
Yeah, I love that. No, I think it is healthy, and just being able to have a little change of scenery too, right? Because like you, I haven't been on a plane since February of 2020, so it
feels weird.
So, yeah, I know it'll be a little probably uncomfortable to begin with, when I get there, but that's okay. I'm okay.
But as soon as you get to that airport, you're going to think, I'm living again.
Absolutely.
Because it feels routine.
Yes.
And I miss that routine.
Yeah, no, I agree, me too.
Back to it.
Now, it was the most incredibly busy weekend here in our region of Miramichi. So I hope you all had a fantastic weekend across the province. But here, it was nonstop.
I know, I'm worn out.
I know. So we'll kick it off with Friday night, which was the opening to the Striper Cup. Yes. First time in person, of course, in the last couple of years. 179 teams registered, and I got to go to the opening ceremonies at the Miramichi Curling Club. It was amazing to see everybody there. And the premier actually came and opened the Striper Cup for us. So he happened to be in town, or I know that they invited him, which was wonderful. And so he provided some opening remarks. And then the next morning, did the first shotgun start.
I saw that on a video. That was great. How many, 179 teams?
Teams of 4.
Wow.
Right. And then there was the individual division that's been going since May 1st. So like that's amazing, right? And just think of all those teams. A lot of them were from away, like either New Brunswick or Canada. And, just incredible to see all the boats on the river and to know that, they were staying here, they were shopping here, they were eating here, they were,
boosting us up.
Absolutely. And it really felt like it kicked off the summer.
And it didn't matter that the weather was kind of rainy
and
crappy. Today's beautiful. We were in Montreal, it was 37 degrees for 2 days. It's all over the place. But when you're out in a boat and you're having fun, that doesn't matter.
Well, apparently the fish are already wet.
Yes.
I heard that the other night. I had to share it. But Jeff Wilson that we've had on the show, Jeff Wilson we've had on the show, he said, well, you know what? The fish don't care. They're already wet.
I find him so funny.
I know.
He's great.
I know. Who's good.
No wonder he's got that job. He's the best.
Absolutely. And then I kicked off Saturday morning with brunch at Ribfest.
Yum.
Oh, so good.
I had things that I had to eat, but the boys went. Like Jansen, one of his friends, but I didn't get there. I apologize. But I heard it was phenomenal.
Absolutely. They were super, super busy. Good. Super busy. But you were super busy as well because there was the Josie Foundation dinner on Saturday night.
And for anyone who by now does not know what the Josie Foundation dinner is, it is a gathering to support people in the Miramichi area, basically all of our local area, that are going through illness. Could be chronic illness, it could be life-threatening illness, and the fundraiser is to support those having financial burden because of the need to go to chemotherapy, maybe out of town, and it just gas prices, right? So that to help them with gas cards, and it's such an uplifting thing for those the beautiful board of directors that they have to be able to give someone a helping hand when they're having financial distress.
Well, and I know some people that have benefited from the Josie Foundation and all that they do, and it's incredible. So many of us talk about volunteering and how important it is, but when you see organizations like the Josie Foundation, and for those who don't know, the Josie Foundation was established by our MP, Mr. Jake Stewart, a number of years ago in honor of his grandmother, and with that mandate of giving back, and it is incredible to see that happening, and gas is so expensive right now, but they have at times provided gas cards to have to travel. Groceries or the overnight stays when you're going for your medication, your medical treatments. So, and of course, not only do they volunteer to put the dinner together, but I mean they plan that thing all year, and it's hours and hours and hours spent pulling it together. But you were an incredible MC, as you always are.
Well, it was my first actual public, I guess, MC position since COVID. I might have done a couple of little things, but as far as a packed room, it was at the Kin Center. I was very emotional. I get very, very emotional when we have each year a guest speaker that talks about their journey, whether it's themselves affected with illness or their loved ones. And in this case, it was Nancy McGraw, whose husband, unfortunately and unbelievably, was electrocuted in 2015. And she, of course, he was in the hospital, but now she's home caregiving, and she's a dynamic person. She was a beautiful guest speaker. The meal was delicious.
It was.
And there was so much joy, and I tried to make it fun too, because it does get very emotional, and you have to bring some smiles as well as tears, I guess, to the night.
Well, and absolutely, and that's, Nancy's an incredible human being, and her journey has been, an inspiring one to watch, but must be, but also sad. She is so dedicated to him, and he loved her so much. So it's amazing to watch the journey and for her to share it. But I also want to highlight the fact that both you and Gerard received an incredible honor that night with the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal.
Yes, and that's why I was emotional too, because I didn't expect that. We love to contribute to the Josie Foundation. Like my husband, people know now, is a physician, and he said, what better way to give back than to help those in need of medical assistance through monetary gifts? And that's how he feels. He sees people day in and day out suffering, and families, trying to deal with it. And so he was just thrilled with that Jubilee Medal, as was I.
Yes.
And I'm going to proudly wear that.
Absolutely.
It was beautiful.
And you also made a donation again that evening, did you not?
We did. I don't like to even talk about us because I never want the night to be about us.
And I know that, but I think oftentimes people forget, right? We forget to say thank you. And we are family, absolutely. And I am infinitely proud of both of you for all that you do. But we get caught up in the money sometimes, and it's incredibly generous, but you also donate your time to so many causes, and I think that gets lost in the shuffle as well. But thank you on behalf of everybody for what you do.
So welcome, and we just hope that gift and others that presented that night will go far and wide, and we know that it can't go forever, so that's why we like to contribute each year.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, Veronique.
No, it's a wonderful thing, and listen, I can talk about that stuff all day long, but let's talk about some challenging stuff. So you see the outpouring of heartbreak and anger and frustration and all of those things, and that's of course after the latest mass shooting in the States, in Texas, and Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and where 21 people were killed. 19 of those were fourth graders, which is heartbreaking. So I'm gonna say this. So I know you have some stats around gun violence and things like that. So I'm gonna say this. I know an incredible amount of responsible gun owners.
Me too.
Right? That own for a wide variety of reasons, and none of which involve what's happened in the States. But at some point, and they all say that, we are responsible gun owners, and it's that outlying, few that do this. Absolutely, no question. Yeah. But the fact that an 18-year-old was able to legally purchase an assault rifle and then walk into an elementary school and do this. So he actually purchased it on his 18th birthday when it was legal, with no checks, no balances, no nothing. He was just able. That's the part that I don't understand. Absolutely, responsible gun owners, have at her, hunters and sports people, and I understand all of that, but I just don't understand why this has to happen.
Well, let's put it this way, he's not old enough to get his license to drink, but he can get a gun. Yeah. So, and it's not like, if my mind serves me right, over the last many decades, the majority of the gunmen that shoot down these young people, innocent people, are of the age group that are like 17, 18, 19, like underage group.
Well, the one that had the previous mass shooting at the grocery store was another 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, it's not to say that I, if I was having that moment, couldn't do something as an adult, of course, with a gun, but it's happening with the youth at the, holding it. And they're like military weapons.
Absolutely.
I mean, who is going to use military weapons besides militants?
I don't.
This is what I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
But my heart, I read, like, not only did those darling 21 people lose their lives, the two school teachers, her husband died of a heart attack.
2 days later.
2 days later, and left 4 children behind.
I know.
And they say it was probably heartbreak and just the grief of it all.
Yeah.
And so there you go. What possesses a child, or anybody for that matter, to have that much hate in their body?
I don't understand it, and it's it's tough to process emotions in the best of times, and of course through the pandemic it's been worse, and so I'm not sure how we get to that spot, to be honest. I'm not sure how someone gets there, and again, I'm going to go back to fully supportive of the people that I know and don't know that are responsible gun owners, because like I don't understand it, but I also like I said earlier, people don't understand me reading those trashy romance novels, right? So and I'm not equating one to the other, but I don't understand guns, and that's okay. I'm okay with that, but I fully support those who want them for sport and all of those things that they do, but I don't understand why they can't see that there has to be a compromise between free range gun ownership and more responsible, more checks and balances.
Do more checks. Obviously, this child had made a threat and said that he was going to write a project on murder-suicide in high school, and had a mental health evaluation, which because he was questionable as to his intentions. After that, obviously, and they let him go, and then he went out and killed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't get it at all.
Our hearts are broken. Thoughts and prayers don't cut it anymore. Unfortunately, there needs to be some action around that, but we'll see what those next steps are.
Yep.
And go from there. But I mean, our hearts are broken for everyone who's ever experienced it.
Can't even imagine. And do we have a few minutes for me to share some?
Yeah.
You'll just give me the cue there, Veronique, when we're going to be going to break. So I do want to share some child-related gun violence and school shooting facts. Brace yourself. Each day, 12 children die from gun violence in America. Amongst, another 32 are shot and injured.
3 minutes.
Guns are the leading cause of death among American children and teens. 1 out of 10 gun deaths are age 19 or younger. Firearm deaths occur at a rate more than 5 times higher than drownings. The United States has had 2,032 school shootings since 1970. 2,032. And these numbers are increasing. Alarmingly, 948 school shootings have taken place since the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School in December 2012, which I will never forget.
Oh, I know.
That day.
I know. I remember that.
Since the historic attack at Columbine High School in 1999, nearly 300,000 students have been on campus during a school shooting. An estimated 4.6 million American children live in a home where at least one gun is kept loaded and unlocked. These improperly stored weapons have contributed to school shootings, suicides, and the deaths of family members. Records show 70% of school shootings since 1999 have been carried out by people under 18.
Yeah.
Nearly half of all parents of a weapon in the home wrongly believe their children don't know where a gun is stored. Guns used in about 68% of gun-related incidents at school were taken from the home, a friend, or relative.
Yep.
In 4 out of 5 school shootings, at least one other person had knowledge of the attacker's plan but failed to report it.
Oh my goodness.
And lastly, almost all mass school shooters shared threatening or concerning messages or images. More than 75% raised concerns from others prior to the attacks. Bystanders saw warning signs in most documented active cases.
So thank you, Judy, for sharing that. And in our last minute, all I'm going to say around that is those who want to purchase guns or who currently own guns and are responsible, and those of us who don't and don't understand it need to come together and find a compromise so that this doesn't happen again. Thoughts and prayers are wonderful and heartfelt, but no longer good enough. So, we need to find a way to stop having to teach our kids in schools that they can be shot. So anyway, we're going to wrap for our break, so don't go too far. We've got 2 amazing guests coming up right after the break. See you in a couple minutes. Hi, and welcome back to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, joined, of course, by my fantastic co-host, Judy Loge.
So nice to be with everybody.
I know, and we have a wonderful guest, of course. As always, we love our guests. We're very lucky to have some amazing guests. And today, actually, Amy Burns is joining us, a Schizophrenia Society of New Brunswick outreach worker.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. We're so happy to have you here. And for all of our viewers at home, tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm Amy. I am from Miramichi, originally born and raised. I moved from Miramichi it's been 6 years, moved to Moncton, and now I'm living in Salisbury, and I love it. I'm in Salisbury.
Oh, good.
I love it because it's a small community, but then I can go to Moncton.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
close.
nice. Yeah, I love it.
I'm sorry, I didn't even realize you drove up here today from Salisbury.
I'm here once a week, so.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
wonderful.
regarding schizophrenia, now I don't know much about statistics, so give us and the viewers an overview of all the stats that you can share.
So with the Schizophrenia Society, I've been there for almost 8 years now, so it's been a while. And we offer programs and support for not just anybody living with schizophrenia, but also anybody looking for services for mental health.
Absolutely.
So with schizophrenia, 1% of the population is diagnosed with schizophrenia, so that's more than 24 million people. So if you yourself don't have schizophrenia, you know somebody living with schizophrenia.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of the time we hear things in the news or on shows and TV that that aren't accurate with the diagnosis. And that's the main thing that we want to talk about, is to help people understand that just because somebody has schizophrenia doesn't mean that they're going to be violent.
Right.
That's normally what the population thinks until they meet somebody and realize, oh,
Absolutely.
you have schizophrenia, and I've never been involved with the law or wanted to hurt anybody. So we're trying to advocate for people living with schizophrenia, and one of the stats shows that 97% of people are never involved with the law living with schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So yes, can it happen, but it's very, very rare. So that's just something that we try to
all be
tell
involved
people.
with the law at some
Exactly,
point, right?
yes, exactly. So we want to get that out there, because the more that people are educated, the more this lessens the stigma, and people can understand what others are going through.
And personally, I have not ever, I have people that I know of, I don't know all of their circumstances about how they feel, you know, going through it, but I do know people that are you know, living with it, and yet I've never, it's not crossed my mind about violence or anything like that. So I'm one of the people that are, you know, knowing that that's just a myth.
Well, it's such a stereotype in movies,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
When you see in a TV show or in a movie, that's the stereotype.
Yep. And people will call too, like they may just be diagnosed and not know much about it.
Right.
And they're so scared that they're going to be like they see in the movies,
Yeah.
when they would never hurt a fly.
Right.
They're more likely to be a victim than they are to hurt somebody.
Absolutely.
So
Good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thank you for that. And so talk to us a little bit about what some of the signs or symptoms might be of schizophrenia.
So, schizophrenia is really a spectrum. Like, not everybody will have the same symptoms,
Right.
but some of the signs and symptoms are hallucinations. People can have hallucinations with all 5 senses, so they can see things that aren't
wow.
there, hear things, taste things, like something may taste very bitter or rotten. They can smell things that aren't there, like gas,
Interesting.
or you know, smelling smoke, like they think the house is on fire, but they look around and there's nothing.
I did
lit.
not know that you could have it with all 5 senses.
Yeah.
Oh, no, right.
Yeah.
Or you can feel things crawling on your skin.
Yeah.
So it can be anything. Some people will have a mixture. Some people may just hear voices. But I know for seeing things, it can be even shadows or flashes of light.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're always seeing something scary.
Right.
It can be for hearing things, could be a knock at the door. Some people will hear somebody telling them jokes, so they like to have those voices because it's comforting and somebody's always making them laugh.
Right.
So it's not always scary things that can happen, but there's all different kinds of hallucinations that people experience.
Interesting.
So Amy, on that note, as follow-up, how do you actually talk to someone that's going through that? They are seeing things that, you know, they believe is there, or they're hearing something that is not actually something you're hearing. How do you have that conversation and talk to that individual?
So we do try to, we'll talk about having as much empathy as you can, because for that person, it is really real, and there's no arguing otherwise. So we try not to, you know, you wouldn't make fun of the person or tell the person that that's not there. You would just say, you know, I'm really sorry, that must be scary, or what can I do for you? So you're empathizing and not blaming them, because it's not their fault if they're, you know, having hallucinations. Also really listen to them, because maybe there's something that they may need. They may have like a lot of stimulation going along, and they may need you maybe to turn down the radio, or but they're not able to tell you right at the moment. So try to listen as much as you can, and to social cues as well.
She's so calming that
I know.
think you'd be the perfect person in your role to do all of this and know exactly what to do. Like, you know, if I was going through something like that, you'd be the one I would want beside me. Let's just say that.
Absolutely.
It's true. You're cut out for that for sure.
I appreciate it.
That's why you're there.
So what, like, you know, as friends and family and you know, people, you know, colleagues, what are some of the ways that we can help people who have, you know, now been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and what kind of resources are available either for that person or for support as well?
So a lot of people, they feel really alienated, and sometimes people will say, you know, and people are so much more than their diagnosis. They'll say, you know, I just want to laugh, or I want to be treated like a human being. So we try to, you know, treat adults as adults, and try to, sometimes they may not feel good and may not want to be around people, and that's okay, but give them that option. And with the Schizophrenia Society, we have programs for anybody with any mental illness and psychosis and schizophrenia. There's also support groups that we run. And, you know, just like I said, treating people as adults and giving them the option, I think that's that's the best support, and listening to them, because a lot of people don't feel heard, and they feel like you know, they're a burden sometimes on family and friends.
Yeah, I do hear that.
Yeah.
I hear people that I know that are going through any form of mental health issues, and they don't want to. They want you to be there, but they don't want to burden you with complaining or saying that, you know, it's hard. But I do want to ask you more about the programs that the Schizophrenic Society of New Brunswick offers.
Yes.
You mentioned it, but if you could go into more detail.
So all of our programs are free. And like I said, they are for anybody with any mental illness, but we do talk about psychosis and schizophrenia and several. So we have around 5 to 4 people in groups.
Okay.
And it's once a week for 5 weeks. The first one is your recovery journey. So that's for anybody with any mental illness. We talk about, you know, what to do if we end up in the hospital. Using
recovery is possible.
Yeah, recovery is possible, using medication as a tool.
Yes.
What kind of quality of life is what I'm looking for. We talk about recovery. So it really is a kind of like a peer support group in the end. And we also have one for caregivers and family to help them learn about mental illness and how they can help their loved one. And that's also 5 weeks as well. And we try to have our classes smaller, you know, 4 to 5 people, just so everybody feels a little bit comfortable. And we do sometimes have to do it online, which isn't, you know, I don't love it, but you have to do what you have to do to get the services offered.
Your day job, you do offer evening sessions where people come together and talk and share and learn and know that they're not alone, that somebody else is able to relate to them, and you're more or less the guide there to say that it's okay if you feel this way, and someone says, I do feel that too, and I think that's fantastic. That's what we need to do. Talk about it. Get people out there that share and know that they're not walking that walk alone, that other people are going through very similar experiences.
It's so true.
So important.
Well, and what tends to happen, and I volunteered at the Schizophrenia Society for a number of years. I was the president for a little while, and that awareness was so key, right? Because, and I used to say, as I would go around to speak to groups, is that, you know, if I called you today and said, Judy, I broke my leg, right? You would say, oh my goodness, can I get your groceries? Can I, you know, come take you out to run errands? Can I, you know, wash your hair? Whatever.
Sign your cast?
Absolutely. You know, all of those things, you would rush to me, right? But if I phoned you today and I said I was diagnosed with schizophrenia or another mental health issue, not you particularly, but people tend to go, ooh, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to say to you, so I'm not going to call you. You know, and that's the challenge, right? Is that when we should be leaning in, we lean back because we're afraid and we don't understand it. And that is about mental health in general, right?
And again, education. People have to know what is going on and what is what and what's not, right? And that they're just experiencing things that many other people do, and that it's not terrifying for us to come across someone like that just says, I'm going through this, I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. How can we help? How can we be there?
Exactly.
It's so crucial.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, I mean, this is a very poor, you know, analogy to it, but I was super sick for the last 5 weeks, right? Like just super sick, and I just kept, I was not myself. I couldn't get out of bed. I was so exhausted and just miserable and, you know, crying all the time. But I remember laying there thinking, oh, just suck it up, Veronique, you know, just stop. Like, you know, don't, like, you can do it, you know, just get down the hall. And I'd be like, wah. You know, and you don't want to burden your friends and family, and you don't, you know, and then you tend to self-medicate, right? So I'm like, oh, I know what's wrong with me. It's just the flu. I'm going to be fine. You know, I'm just going to take some Pedialyte, whatever it is, you know, and you self-medicate, and then it ends up worse, you know, until you finally actually reach out and get the help that you need. So for me, it ended up being a whole bunch of things put together. But I mean, I could have been better a whole long time ago, right? And
you're a good example of not opening up and telling people and talking.
Absolutely.
And that was physical illness, but the same as mental illness. You've got to go to somebody you can trust, that you know loves you, cares about you, or an acquaintance, and say, this is how I'm feeling. What can you help me do?
Because I have incredibly supportive friends and family. Like Judy, as busy as she is, would, you know, text me and say, what can I get you? Oh, no, I'm fine.
She won't talk.
She keeps
everything inside.
You know, but that's mine's just a very small example, you know, but that's like I can empathize and understand why people don't share that diagnosis of mental illness, because not only is it overwhelming personally, but then to try and figure out how to get your friends and family to help.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, you don't even know what's going to help.
Yeah.
Like I have generalized anxiety, depression, ADHD, and some people would say, well, what do you need? And I'm like, I don't know. So sometimes it's difficult too. You can have that support and not know yourself. So
Yeah, absolutely.
if you have somebody you can talk to that you trust, I think that's the main thing. And to find support, once I started hearing that other people had similar experiences that I did, made me feel less alone and more able to open up about it.
For sure. And looking at you again, how do we know what someone's going through?
Exactly.
How would I ever know, looking at you today, just sitting there as composed as can be, that you would have any anxiety, let alone something that you battled for how many years now?
Yeah. I've been diagnosed since my early 20s, but probably since middle school.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, incredible.
You just think it's part of your personality.
right,
Yes.
and you don't know any different.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and providing that support is tough, but you also, there's a lot of fundraisers that also happen. So talk, and there's a couple I really love. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're having a silent auction with the Schizophrenia Society on our Facebook page, Schizophrenia Society of New Brunswick, if you want to check it out. Silent auction that starts on June 20th at 9 a.m. and it ends on July 5th. At 9 a.m. So there's lots of great stuff. A lot of people donated and we appreciate it so much. Like I said, all of our programs are free, so without the support, you know, it wouldn't be possible. We're also having a lobster and steak draw.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, you have our full attention.
12 bottles of lobster. 6 steaks is the first place winner. And then the second one is, I think it is steaks and stuff for the barbecue.
Fantastic.
So the tickets are on sale at the Schizophrenia Society, and we do go to as many farmers markets as we can until July 28th is the draw. So that's what's in store for now, but we probably have other things in the works.
So COVID must have hit you guys pretty hard in the fundraising department, eh?
It was really, really tough. Even the programs, because a lot of people too that I would normally see may not have had access to internet or, you know, and a lot of people were really isolated. So it was difficult to do some of the programs, but I tried to get out as much as I could and see people. But we're glad to be back. We've been super busy lately and back in action.
And I know you're always like thinking and improving and working on programs and creating. You love your job.
I love it. I was going to say, one last thing. We just created a program for youth.
I was going to ask you about youth and how many youth would be affected with this.
Yes. So we created a program for youth to learn about mental illness, mental wellness, because that's normally when it starts, right? Of diagnosis and the teen years. So we're hoping to get that in the schools.
Wonderful.
And that's a 5-session program. So we're really excited about that and just to, you know, reach more people.
I'm really excited about that.
I love it. And
the youth. We have to get them started.
That's the thing, right? And we need to talk more about mental health and, you know, mental wellness and how we get there and how we all, you know, navigate it, right? And of course, we know that the pandemic has hit everybody hard in that regard. But in the last couple of minutes before we go to break, how do we get a hold of you?
So you can contact me at Schizophrenia Society of New Brunswick. Just ask for Amy, 622-1595. You can reach out on our Facebook page. Somebody's always checking the messenger, so if you feel more comfortable doing that. Or my email is on our page as well, ssnbprograms@gmail.com.
What would be your best tip to someone either that has received a diagnosis or is supporting someone with a diagnosis?
Reach out for help for both sides, and I know it's easier said than done, but there are people that care and that do want to help you. And I mean, if you feel something resonated today and you want to reach out to me, I'll always listen and get you the services that you're looking for.
There'll be someone watching today.
Yeah,
guaranteed there's someone in our viewership that will say, okay, thank you. I now know that I can go get help.
Absolutely.
And recovery is possible.
Yes.
Recovery is possible.
That's our
wonderful.
That's amazing. Well, you know what? Thank you so much, Amy, for all the work that you're doing and all the work that the Schizophrenia Society of New Brunswick is doing as well. I know for our chapter here in Miramichi, 2 very incredibly strong women started it probably about 35 years ago in support of their children at the time, and I've been lucky enough to work with them. So just absolute incredible advocacy from before there was even the word advocacy, right? So, you know what, if you know someone who has been diagnosed with a mental health challenge, or you yourself have, as Amy says, please do reach out. There is so much out there for you, you know, and we want to be able to be there to help you. So don't go too far. We have another great guest coming up right after the break. Grab a cold drink. Hi, and welcome back to Have a Chat. I am your host today, Veronique Arsenault, with my incredible co-host, Judy Loge.
And back at you. It's hard to believe we're at the last part of our show.
I know, it's been an amazing show so far, and they fly by, don't they?
I know
Judy?
it does. The guests must just blink and say, I'm not done yet.
Exactly. So we have another wonderful guest that is joining us now for our last segment today, Matthew Dixon, who is a schizophrenia advocate and founder of Mind Aid. Welcome, Matthew.
Thanks for having me.
We're so glad to have you today.
Appreciate it.
Great. So
bright smile.
Now, to give the viewers a little knowledge, tell us about yourself.
So I'm from St. Andrews, New Brunswick, and I had a pretty average childhood. Nothing too bad happened to me. Nothing too exceptional happened to me. And I, it was no complaints really about my childhood. But when I went off to university, I went to Acadia in Nova Scotia for a year, and then I went to UNB in Fredericton. And every year I sort of got another symptom coming on I didn't know it at the time, but I would be diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1994 in my 5th year of university.
Oh, wow.
5th year of university in Fredericton.
In Fredericton, yeah. So they were mild symptoms. I could still do stuff. After my 3rd year, I bicycled across Canada, which is a story in itself. And I was on the UNB rowing team, getting mostly A's in engineering. So I could still do stuff, but when the disease hit, it hit hard. And I went from sort of muddling through life somewhat to just flat on my back, incapacitated, and just fighting for my life.
Wow.
Whew, just kind of made
incredible.
me catch my breath there, because I do know people, you know, I have friends and acquaintances that are living with schizophrenia. And as Amy said, there's a lot more people out there dealing with this than we know of, right? And so tell us, you touched on it, but tell us more about the symptoms that you first started to experience, and just kind of walk us through, you know, when you were diagnosed, and some more personal experiences. Like you said, like, did you start sleeping more? Did you start getting more anxious? Just kind of tell us more about living with this.
Yeah, so I had depression and anxiety along with schizophrenia. 75% of people with schizophrenia have hallucinations. I never did. And one of the first symptoms to hit me, well, I had depression, low on energy. I mean, even though I was biking across Canada, I had lower energy, blunted emotions. When one of the symptoms was my vision. It felt like some people with schizophrenia, I've heard say, it feels like they're watching TV, and that's the way I felt. It felt like I could see stuff. I never saw anything that wasn't there, but it felt like I couldn't interact with it. I felt disconnected. And it felt like I was watching more like a movie of my life, just not there. Yeah, it's, then when the disease hit, I got more intense symptoms. For example, like if I went for a walk, I felt like if I turned around and walked backwards the way I came from, I felt like I would go back in time. I knew it wasn't true. I knew that wouldn't happen, but it was intense.
It was there.
You felt that.
It was there.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was really tough. I got on a medication and it worked. It worked glacially slowly, and over 27 years, I improved every single week.
Beautiful.
Every single week, I noticed a small, tiny improvement.
Really?
Yeah, and if I miss about once a year or two, I would miss my medication. I'd just forget, and I could feel in the early years I could feel something a little bit different when I missed that one night. But I never went more than one night without missing the medication.
Good.
So I have heard that there's a lady with schizophrenia in Saskatchewan, and she's mid-20s and she's on a medication. She got better a lot faster than I did. I mean, she's doing things at 25 that I wasn't doing at 25. I was in the psych ward in Fredericton for a year in 1994. Then I lived in a group home in Fredericton for 3 years after that.
Okay.
Since then, I've been living on my own. I bought a house, lived in the house for 13 years. And I've since moved back to St. Andrews. I really enjoy it
Beautiful.
there.
I'm jealous.
I know it is a beautiful,
especially come
beautiful
summer.
place. Yeah,
It's a little bit of a haven there, isn't
yes,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you feel? And I have another question right after that. But did you feel, I guess, a sense of relief when you were diagnosed, or confusion?
Well, there's confusion with the disease anyway. It's hard to think properly. It felt like I was. It feels like you're reading a book, but every single word in the book is out of order.
Right.
It's that sort of sense. Your thoughts go by so quickly, but at the same time, people with schizophrenia say another part of my brain is working just fine. Logically, you get up and you think, well, what do I do today? Well, I could go for a walk, or I should go to work, or I should, maybe have an ice cream cone right now. You have these thoughts that tick along just fine. So I was confused to a certain degree with the disease. There was definitely confusion with, what's happening to me, what's going on, because I got diagnosed very soon after it hit so hard.
Okay.
It's
Good.
But you'd be so scared, right? Wondering, why am I feeling like this? Why do I have this visual thing going on? Why do I feel when I walk backwards, as you described? Did you have a lot of great support around you, like family and friends, or did the friends kind of say, whoa, this isn't quite the Matthew I know right now, and back away, or did they come forward and embrace you?
Yeah, so this was the worst years was before social media, before internet was really much of a thing, before cell phones. So people were just sort of more used to spending more time on their own anyway.
Right.
So I was very lucky to have family and friends that didn't give me a hard time. I was so thankful for that. So it was.
It's really important.
Yeah.
So you touched on it, but you biked across the country. So tell us, that is fascinating to me, and I can't even imagine doing it today, but tell us about that.
So it's an organized trip that I went on. It's called Tour de Canada. They do it every year, and I went with 46 people that year. And it was daunting. I wasn't a biker. I just sort of went and did the trip. It was a thing in the Telegraph Journal newspaper. It said, a headline, "You can pedal across Canada." They said anyone of average physical fitness can do the trip. You do the training in April, May, and June, and then you do the trip in July and August. And
I can't.
I can't. It's really huge. To drive across would be bad enough in a car.
I know.
And enduring and challenging, but to bike.
So how long? So you left. Where'd you leave from? How long did it take you? Sorry, I had to collect my own thoughts there.
It goes from Vancouver and it ends in St. John's, Newfoundland. Yeah.
Really? So literally across the country.
Yeah, 10 weeks. A lot of teachers want to do the trip, so they organize it from the last day of school to the first day of school in Labor Day.
I don't want to do that for my summer vacation. I'm not a teacher, but I don't want to do that.
Wintertime, Verity. Just get some big wheels there.
Yeah.
Skidoo across Canada. What about billets, or did you have to get your own hotel rooms, or how did you work on staying overnight places, camping, or
campgrounds? A couple hostels, but mostly campgrounds.
Wow.
They organize everything for you: trucks, food, ferries,
Amazing.
everything. Yeah.
I can't even. I think that's phenomenal. Congratulations to you for having done it.
Thank you.
Did you have any hairy experiences along the way? Like what the highway drivers are like. They're all over the place. Here you are in your lane doing your thing and being cautious, but then we have those wild people on the road.
Yeah, and this is before texting too on the road.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
It was. There were close calls for sure. Not as many as you'd think for me, but. Sure, I took my life in my hands doing that trip, but I wanted to do it. I look back and I think, why did I make it that risky? But I wasn't even thinking about it at the time.
Good for you.
Huge accomplishment, Matthew. Yeah. What are some other things that helped you get well? You did mention the medication. Thankfully, worked for you. It took a longer time than you would have hoped it, would take to kick in. But what are some other things? Do you enjoy outdoor stuff? Obviously, biking. But do you like, movies, and do you like hanging out with your friends, or what do you enjoy that makes, and what helps you the most deal with the dealing of schizophrenia?
So with schizophrenia, it was difficult to talk to people. It was difficult to do everything. Your dopamine, your reward center of your brain is a shot, so everything is just like, I don't have to do this. Even things you would ordinarily want to do. Right. It's just like, oh, do I have to do this? Yeah. So I read a lot. I read voraciously on how to get myself better. Books on mental health, people skills, diet, exercise. I was in the business and career section in the bookstore a lot too, because of all these top CEOs are into personal development, which is a lot of the same stuff.
Right.
So I read books by Navy SEALs, Olympic athletes on how to, because I have a mental illness, it doesn't mean that all my thoughts are gone. There's a lot of our same thought patterns that everyone has, on how to deal with people.
Right.
Verbal judo, it's what police officers use to deal with people. It helped me immensely.
Okay.
There are books on that.
Judo.
Verbal Judo by George Thompson. There's another guy, he's a Navy SEAL. He's trained thousands of Navy SEAls. Mark Devine, like Divine Intervention.
Yes.
He's got books on how to improve your mindset and for anybody.
That really helped you, all this reading. And I think that would be immensely, beneficial for sure.
Yeah.
Do you work out? You look very fit.
A little bit. I'd like to do a bit more than I should.
But you don't go to the gym. Is that because I find people that I know that have anxiety or any form of mental health issues love to work out. They just say it stimulates you. It just releases those endorphins, and they feel so much better.
Yeah.
But you know, you bike and you do other things. You don't have to go to the gym to feel that way.
I've done a bit of working out. I don't do it as regularly as I'd like to. I love dancing.
Do you?
Oh my God.
He loves to dance. I'll just excuse myself in the set, and if we could get the Rogers guy to play us a tune.
I did a short period of time. I was a competitive ballroom dancer.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I
loved
leave
it.
the table now.
Loved it.
It's like the red table talk where I say, oh, I can't dance.
Now I just kind of shake my groove thing in the kitchen, but that's about it.
I do too.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So I love meeting people. In the early years, it was difficult to meet people. It was tough, but in years since, I love going out and meeting new people. I put on a speed friending event in St. Andrews recently. Oh. It's like speed dating, but for friendship. Oh, yeah. And I want to start those on Zoom too. It's,
wow, how cool is that? Speed dating.
It's speed friending. Sometimes it's called speed meeting or speed networking.
Speed dating. I was going to say, here, I'll get you a list of names here. I'll hop right on there tonight for sure. A lot of my friends.
So you've shared some things that helped you. What would be some other recommendations that you would have for other people who have been recently diagnosed or living?
I want to tell people that for me, when I was diagnosed, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of other people with schizophrenia or other mental illness, it can be really tough in the beginning. When that pain hits, it's terrifying, and you're thinking, how long is this going to last? I knew somebody. There's a friend I've got was in a small avalanche in the Gas Bay. They had their GPS things on, and it measured how fast they went and how far. It was only like 400 meters in like 20 seconds or something, rough numbers. He said, I was in there tumbling around in the dark. It felt like it was going to last forever.
Yeah.
And that's the way I felt in the beginning, like, when will this stop? But the pain lessens. It can lessen, and it can get down to a more manageable level where it allows you to carry on for longer.
Right.
And I want to tell people just not to give up.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Navy SEALs are taught that you are capable of 20 times more than you think you are.
Really?
20 times more. And that's a semi-random number, but it gets across the point. You think you're done?
Yeah.
No.
You're not.
No, you're not.
You
can keep going for way longer than you think.
Wow.
And I feel I was tested that way with there were so many days I just did not want to do anything.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Thinking, how am I going to do this? I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
Every day, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But you keep getting up and you keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yep. Getting up and getting dressed and showing up.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about your website? Tell us about that. It's called Mind Aid. That's your creation.
Yeah, mindaid.ca. So the whole time through my disease, my heart went out to people in extreme poverty, war-torn countries who have not just mental illness, but poverty, sometimes war to deal with too. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So I started researching it in around 2017. There are some countries that have only one psychiatrist per million people.
Oh,
That's
brutal. Incredible.
That's devastating, actually.
Some people are actually kept in chains with mental illness in some countries. They're tied to a tree, to a bed.
Yeah.
Robin Williams' son, Zach Williams, Tim Shriver, the founder of the Special Olympics, and others are trying to unchain people. They have a platform, #BreakTheChains. What I try to do with my website is, well, as far as I know, it's the only website of its kind in the world. If you go researching mental health in developing countries, there are groups involved in that. They need way more resources. but they're scattered across the web. I've got as many as I can find on my one site. So I'm hoping it will get more traction in the future. Right now, it can be like a hub for the cause. If you want to find out who's working on what, go there. And I want to add more groups as I find them, and as more groups are built as time goes on.
I'm shocked, actually, that they have people undergoing mental, stresses and illnesses chained.
They don't know what else to do.
They estimate hundreds of thousands, not a million, but hundreds of thousands in 60 countries.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, and there's just such a lack of understanding too around mental illness and how to support and how to help. So, in the last moments of our show, what do you want to share? What's your biggest takeaway, I guess, at this point?
So, with the Mind Aid, I've started a fundraiser for this year. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to raise $1.8 million by the end of this year to help 10,000 women with depression in Africa get treatment.
Amazing.
I've got a fundraiser on my page, mindaid.ca. It's called Join 2022 Challenge.
Yeah.
And people can donate there. They can start their own personal fundraiser underneath mine.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get people to donate
amazing.
To that. Yeah.
You're doing big things, Matthew.
I'm trying.
Mindaid.ca.
Yep.
Yeah, Dad spent about 20 years in Africa with the United Nations, and so really, came back with a lot of stories around the same thing, and just desire to help there as well. So you're doing incredible things, Matthew.
You look great, and you're feeling good.
I'm feeling great. Yeah,
you can tell. Yeah.
February 11th, 2021, my symptoms stopped.
Really?
They just stopped, and I felt,
like really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah, it's that consistency too, with your medications and with all of those things that you do to help yourself, eh?
I know.
Yeah.
It's very hopeful for our viewers to say that this gentleman has come a long way through all the things you described and
Absolutely.
And hanging in there until things got better.
Well, we want to thank both of our guests today. Incredible show. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Bye-bye, everybody.